So there's one for the doubters. Nico Müller has won his first race under the Porsche outfit. All to discuss in this episode of Formula E Unscripted. So, I didn't think I'd be making this unscripted episode so early on in testing, but today has shown there's a lot to talk about in Formula E, and a lot of it is speculation. Do remember, testing doesn't prove anything, it just allows the teams to understand the car that they're going to be using in Season 12. I would like to say a massive thank you to the Formula E Zone, because they've been live streaming day 1, day 2, and the rest of the week they'll be doing that. So go check out their content. They do it in such a professional way. They are journalists, and it's amazing what inside scoops you get from the weekend. And I wasn't going to do an episode of this because without content I can't do it, but I've got almost 2 pages worth already, so I wanted to bring some inside knowledge just in case you haven't been able to keep up with testing. So one of the weirdest takeaways I would say is Mahindra looked pretty strong. Again, what I say here is just down to testing, but they were consistent in the free practice 2, and they did a practice race which I'm going to discuss, and that is where I got my title for this video from. But yes, it's very exciting to see that Mahindra might have a car to give Nick de Vries to try and win another championship. I do think that this season is going to go down to the wire, but I also think from the constructors' side, it's going to be whoever's the best pairing. No number 1, no number 2 driver, literally who can play the team game the best. Very similar to what I think happened last year with Porsche, 2 strong drivers who actually didn't seem like they got on very well, but they did score consistently, and that I think is what's going to, well, that's how it should happen anyway in this sport, but Formula E loves to throw curveballs. And even in today's practice race, so they were racing, but they kind of weren't. But you got to understand race car drivers don't really know how to play slow. So they were going 3 wide, 2 wide, and I think 4 wide at one point to try and take the lead. So they were testing around the Valencia circuit, which of course is the home of Formula E testing. And it's so good to see. Now in this test race, they were practicing pretty much anything that can happen within a race. A safety car, they even did a red flag. We don't know if it was intentional or not, and they did have a 25-minute break between the pit boost stops, I guess that's kind of what they're called. There was a bit of speculation whether it was to sort of get rid of what happened in Tokyo last year, where Stoffel van Dorn got a cheeky stop under the red flag because he'd already done his boost stop and no one else had. So we don't know, but this is testing. This is all for Formula E to learn a lot, and the teams to learn from the team's perspective and how the new drivers and rookies are getting on. So Barnard went off in the gravel. We don't know how, but there's a nice picture here of Barnard walking away from his car at the last corner. So that was kind of the dramatic moment of the first practice. And then obviously we had the practice race where we did have a crash between one of the Lolas and we think Dan ticked him. Again, it's not broadcasted very well. Obviously the journalists on site are the only way we get these sources of information, but it is fantastic to see that, you know, they test and they race. And I do think there's other sports that could certainly learn from how to make testing a little bit more entertaining to watch, especially when they do broadcast it. So Mahindra being the 1-2 is definitely my imposters, though. I think that's very interesting. There was a drive-through penalty. I forgot about that. And Nissan, they are not playing any games at all this year. They didn't even partake in the race. They kind of started and then decided to just drop back off the pace and do their own simulations. So whether they're trying to hide something, maybe they're really confident in their car and don't want to show that they're talented, or they just don't want to partake. But they were definitely the spoil sports of the practice race. From the fields, it was so good to see what looked like a Jag Porsche fight, which is what we're sort of teeing up for this season, well I hope anyway, as obviously Da Costa and Müller were up front, Wehrlein was in the mix, and it was good. And again, it was, I think, a solid 8 laps where we had some overtakes and changes, but it was definitely good to see. Obviously, there has been some changes to attack mode as well this year, so again, they would have been testing that as it is. And then, of course, Müller theoretically won the race. I think it was Mortara who had a 5-second penalty for not doing a drive-through penalty, which he also got within that race. So I see what you mean. It's absolutely chaos. So, but yeah, the practice race was great. I will leave a link to the live stream where the boys did commentate on it. The last 5 laps were interesting, and it did show that Formula E is back and ready to race. So it just pumps me up more for obviously December when we go out in Sao Paulo. Obviously this week we had a Porsche testing livery. I like it. It's not the best thing I've seen in the world, but it is pretty cool. It's almost like a cybery sort of look. And they also had the Porsche car, I think is a medical car, dressed in the same livery as well. It's pretty awesome to see. That is probably the most exciting thing we had from like the livery side of things, because Porsche haven't officially announced it. I thought they had, but they haven't. So this is their testing livery. The women's test is at the end of the week. There is a bright future, I think, for women in Formula E. There was an interview done by the Formula E Zone with the CEO himself talking about the future of Formula E, and it is really excited to see what he's got planned, and I think they can squeeze a women's team in there somewhere down the line. This is all speculation though, but I will be making a video on what I think they're going to do using the source of that interview, so subscribe if you want to see where I think Formula E is going to take in the next 5 years, because I think they lost traction over COVID, and now they've got that traction back. Now they're being able to, bring in new fans. Obviously Gen 4 is coming, and that sounds really fast and really exciting. So yes, I'm really excited to see where this sport goes. And there was some talks how and where the London E-Prix is going to go, but again, it's all speculation. But that's testing. So I feel like I've not got a lot of concrete evidence here, but there was a lot to take in. Definitely insights on what Formula E2 could be. Let's just put it that way. So subscribe to more if you want to see some of those videos as I release those. I've got some interesting takes on where I think this sport's going to go, and it is very exciting and very fast. And just to say a massive thank you to the Formula E Zone guys. Without their production, it wouldn't be as engaging as testing could be, because of course there isn't any live stream from the official Formula E. ITV, who are doing the races for England, weren't even broadcasting at all. I don't know if they were there, but they weren't broadcasting. So you guys have been carrying the fort with that, so thank you very much, because it's allowed us to get insights and see the cars on track as well. So I'll leave a link to some of their resources in the description. Definitely worth checking them out, because they have worked really hard to do so. They're not just a muppet who stands in front of a camera with a notepad. They're actually at the track. They've got a commentator. It feels very premium, and of course they don't do it and they don't get paid essentially to do it. They're literally doing it out of the love of Formula E. So I will give them a shout out for that, because they have given us so much content and so much insight to testing. So, and before I finish today's video, I would like to say a massive thank you to everyone, because that was on 45 the last time I checked, or last time I did a unscripted video, and we're now on 113 subscribers, which means we doubled. So this is mega, it's massive for me, and to be able to see you guys comment and talk about what you want out of Formula E just helps us build this community, and we're all in it together because we love this electrical powered sport. So yeah, but that is unscripted testing. It is about as concrete as soil, and yeah, so thanks for tuning in, and I hope to bring more episodes of Unscripted, because it's definitely a fun series to do.